you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I checked out your reel, and that's awesome that you were in Sausage Party. I would have never guessed that one.
Oh my God. Well, it's funny because I did the demo. Alan Menken had hired me and a few people to just do the demo of that opening song because they'd had the movie. That fan is going to make me a little crazy. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
So Sausage Party was done, but it wasn't doing well with focus groups.
Oh.
So in order to fix it, they hired Alan Menken to write an opening number. So it was a very last minute addition. And so I did the demo, and then thankfully they kept me for the session, which was so
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw that in the reel. It's like, well, that one kind of seems out of place.
I know. Not good.
But that's awesome that you were able to do that. Wow. So tell me about, are you originally from LA?
No, I'm from New York.
New York, okay.
About an hour north of the city. It's an area actually called Orange County, New York.
Oh, interesting.
A little town called Goshen. And then close to Manhattan, about an hour and 20 minutes from New York City.
Okay. And how did you get into music?
Oh, man. Thankfully, my parents were playing music all the time. I was listening to a lot of Barry Sisters. My parents are Jewish New Yorkers from Queens. And so we always had a lot of Yiddish music on. And then I have two older brothers. So immediately I was hearing Steel Wheels and all of the Rolling Stones. And
Sure.
But then I started doing ballet when I was really little, like 4 or 5. And I immediately just started loving that music from that, but then went into tap and jazz and
our older son was into dance as younger. He doesn't do it anymore, but he did all the tap, jazz. I think he did ballet, maybe hip hop. That's cool.
Yeah. So I've always sort of had it around me, whether it was in the form of a dance class or my parents playing music. My dad also played the piano to relax after a long day. So I'd have him sitting at the piano playing a lot of Scott Joplin and Broadway show tunes. So, yeah.
Wow. And then do you play an instrument or just sing?
I was supposed to practice the piano growing up, but
Okay.
like most stubborn Aries little children, I refused.
Sure.
So I can play a piano enough to teach. I mean, not teach piano, I teach voice. So scales and basic stuff. I sort of play the ukulele. I think everybody sort of plays the ukulele. But I started studying voice when I was 11 and have really just like focused on that.
Okay. 11. Wow. Were you in lessons, or is that when you started like chorus?
No. I was starting to go to a professional theater summer camp called Stage Door Manor Performing Arts Center. And when I was 11, and they said, you need to start taking voice lessons throughout the year. So I'd had this really old, wonderful piano teacher who would let me sing for half of the piano lesson. But because he was really old, I sort of would start with singing and he'd lose track of time. And then I'd be like, my mom would show up to pick me up and I'm like, oh, we're out of time.
Time to go.
Piano. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And so it was singing. What from there, from the lessons, were you in like musical theater, anything like that in elementary school, middle school, high school?
Yeah, there wasn't much in my middle school, but over the summers I was doing shows at Stage Door. We did one show every 3 weeks. So I was in 2 shows a summer.
Oh, wow.
Very professional. I mean, it was like, Mandy Moore and Natalie Portman and Josh Charles and a lot of people came out of there. It was like you just worked and worked and worked. And and then in high school, I did all the musicals. And then I went to college thinking I was going to be a drama major. I went to Skidmore. There was no musical theater there. It was serious drama. But I was studying in the opera department just to keep my voice, warm and trained. Then right out of college, I booked the Broadway tour of Les Mis. And I was like, oh, I can do this for a living? Oh, I can get paid? I don't have to wear much makeup, just dirt. I can do that.
Wow. Tell me about getting that gig.
Oh my God. I was like a year and a half out of college. I went to this non-union audition in Los Angeles. I had been in LA doing a show here. And, I was doing musical theater sort of like as a non-union person, but getting really great roles. And I did Gypsy and My Fair Lady. And then I went to this audition just thinking, oh, this is nuts. But I sang a little Phantom of the opera. And then they said, can you come back and learn all of this Cosette material? And I was like, sure. And when you're young and cocky out of college, you're like, of course.
Yeah, sure.
So I went back and the director was there. The show was in LA at the time. So the whole team was there. And I sang everything. And 2 weeks later, they called me and said, do you want to go on the national tour? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I had just bought a pet bird. And I was like, I have to find out if my mom can take my bird. So I sent my bird to New York and I packed my things and I was on the road for about a year and a half. And then they sent me to the Broadway production. My role had opened up in New York and they're like, do you want to go to the Broadway production? I was like, hold on, let me think about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. So it was very exciting very early on.
Yeah. Well, how did you get to LA? You were just on that tour?
No, I had graduated Skidmore and I knew I wanted to be an actor, but didn't want to go to New York non-union because it's just really hard. So a friend of mine said, come to LA. I have a manager that will represent you. We'll do a play and you can do some TV. And so I was like, I'd never been to LA. So I moved to LA and I hated it.
Okay.
But I did some shows. I had some representation. I did some random stuff. And then I took the first ticket out. And I live here now. I actually moved back about 10 years ago. LA is good for people who know who they are and who are not going to get broken by like a different kind of rejection than New York. So yeah, I came back many, many years later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did Broadway.
Yeah, I was on Broadway.
Was that a major step up from doing like the touring LA play?
Yeah, I mean, because I had toured the country and then it was weird. It was a show I had been doing. So once you're in the show, like you're on stage and the barricade is there and the turntable's there, the show is the show. So it didn't feel any different doing the show. What was different is when I came out of the stage door, I was in New York, you know?
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I had my life during the day and I was able to film, like I think I booked Law and Order at that time and I could have a life. The opposite is when you're on tour, your life is the show, you know, you're in a town with the same people. So it was really cool. I had my Broadway show jacket. I was in the Broadway softball league.
Oh, cool.
So there was a community. There was a real Broadway community that I loved being a part of. And I'm still a part of it, even though I'm not there.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Once you're in that community, you're sort of always in that community.
You're grandfathered in, so to speak. Grandmothered in, so to speak. Yeah. I love that. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I've never been. I haven't been to New York. My wife's been, but I haven't been.
In your whole life?
I've been to upstate. I've never been to like Manhattan or anything
like that.
I know. Tell me about it.
I mean, after all of this craziness, you need to just give yourself like a week in New York City.
Oh, I know. I'm a huge Beatles fan. I just want to go see all the John Lennon stuff, to be honest. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I used to live right up there. I would walk by the Dakota to get the crosstown bus all the time. And I'd be like,
crazy.
Oh, yeah, that was his house.
That's nuts. Yeah, I really want to see it. But I'm trying to put in perspective, like a Broadway show versus like the theaters you were playing. Is it just like because it's like an event, right? If you're going to see a Broadway show.
What's interesting is the Broadway theaters are tiny.
Oh,
so
are they?
The theaters I was playing in Memphis and Minnesota and Cleveland were huge 2,000 seat theaters. Broadway theaters are about 1,200 seats. So it actually
I didn't realize that.
Much smaller. Yeah. I mean, we were at the Imperial, so we were at a big theater, but for the most part, Broadway feels much more intimate, which I know sounds crazy, but.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like I said, I would think it would be like this big production, jump up, but I guess it's just the vibe and the history there. Yeah. Very cool. So from Broadway, what was next for you?
A lot of regional theater. I was taking a lot of really fun roles. I originated a lot of stuff before it was moving to New York, a lot of workshops. Life in New York City. I started to do voiceovers. I started to voice animation. My family's from New York, so spending time with family. And then I was in La Jolla Playhouse two different times. Yeah, I was doing Zhivago there. And 07 and 08. I can't remember. It's when Jersey Boys was there.
Okay.
We had the same.
I've seen a few plays at the La Jolla's Playhouse. It's awesome. It's really cool.
I love that place. So
yeah,
I would go out of town and back to New York, and I would do every reading of every Holocaust musical that was going through, you know. And then in 2009, I auditioned for the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof. And I was like, great, another 3-hour musical where everybody dies. But it was Topol's farewell tour. So Topol, who's the original guy from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I auditioned for it, and I booked Tzeitel, the oldest daughter. And I decided to get out of New York for a bit, and stayed on that tour for a year. And while I was on that tour, when we played Los Angeles, I got back in touch with some of my friends in LA that I'd met. And I met with Disney and Nickelodeon and big animation studios that was like, if you want to do it, and I love animation, like that's like my heart. And they said, if you want to do it, you sort of need to be in LA. And I was like, I wonder if it's time for me to give New York a little bit of a break. So I went back to New York, did one more play Off-Broadway, and then packed my things and bought a one-way ticket back here to LA.
Wow. And have you been here ever since, or? Okay.
Yeah, I still feel like it happened yesterday, but literally August 5th was 10 years.
Wow. Wow, 10 years. And so you moved to LA and you obviously started booking these animation gigs.
Voiceover stuff. I do a lot of video games. Ended up booking TV, which I didn't really like come out here for. But I booked a show on Disney Channel.
Yeah, I saw that. That's Liv and Maddie.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Super duper fun. And then just sort of found a life here. I still don't love LA. Like I'm very much a New Yorker. LA is very spread out. People don't tell you. I don't know. Are we allowed to use profanity on this podcast?
Yes, you can.
So this is really true. And in LA, people say, how are you? And really mean, fuck you. And in New York, people say, fuck you, but they mean, how are you? You know, like
yeah, totally.
There's a New York feel that I really miss. I really miss the energy. When you leave your apartment in New York, you're like, I could do anything. And LA, it's like, well, maybe I'll sell a pilot.
Maybe I'll drive 2 hours just to get across town.
Yeah. But I found a bunch of New Yorkers who also moved here that, you know, as long as you surround yourself with good people. And then I started teaching at a school for the blind. I started teaching music at a music school for the blind. I was teaching voice. And that was the first time, that was about 6 years ago. That was the first time that I was like, oh, this is why I'm in LA. Okay. Now I have a purpose. Now, like I've fallen in love with this blind school, and I feel, because LA is really good at making you feel purposeless and useless. And so it really felt like, okay, because I developed such a connection to these young singers, and I felt that they needed me and I needed them. So I sort of just, you know, dug my heels in and was like, okay, I'm here in LA for this purpose. And I still work a lot as an actor, not right now, but I'm actually working in animation because I can do that from home. So I'm able to record stuff in my studio.
Very cool.
And yeah.
Wow. Well, okay. So, you said you teach voice at a school for the blind. Did you have I noticed with this new record you have coming out, you had your students on the album, and do you have like a tie to the blind community, or is it just something you kind of fell into?
Oh my gosh, it was literally, I bumped into it as my friends would bump into me. And they know I say that. But I was invited to be a guest there by someone else. And I was like, I'd never heard of a music school for the blind, nor had I really ever had a conversation with somebody who was blind. And I went, and immediately as a musician, as a singer, I heard the voice come from a very different part of the human body in children. And I was shaken to my core because I had been singing for 30 something years and I never connected it like these young singers did. And I immediately was like, they know something that I don't, and I want to know what they know. And then I was just a guest. I would sort of perform as a guest artist at their concerts. And then the head of the school called me and was like, would you want to teach here? And my initial thing was, no, I don't know how to teach Voice for the Blind. Like, no, I don't know how to do that. And then something in me said, just say yes. Just say yes and see what happens. Fake it. You know, I'm a New Yorker, sure.
You do anything.
I can fake backwards. So I said yes, and I just learned as I was going. And I learned that what these students needed wasn't technique, but it was confidence. It was understanding how the body works. It was to feel my face and how I open my mouth to sing and where I breathe into, and somebody to believe in them that wasn't their parent. So I got very close to these students, and I don't work at that school anymore. I ended up taking a maternity leave 3 years ago to have a baby, and I just took over my life. So I still teach them either via Skype, or before shutdown, they came to my house. So I still have a very close relationship. And then when I was putting this Sesame Street album together, I thought, I can't do this music without them.
Yes.
So they are on almost every track. And as is Jason Alexander and French Stewart and Emma Woolley, and just a choir of a plethora of incredible singers.
I did hear that you guys have put out the best album in the history of music. I saw there was a study that was conducted.
There was a study. There were
Tell
some
me about the greatest albums.
There were some charts, some pizza charts. Literally, I had a little nugget of an idea, thinking I'll make an album like of music for me and my kid, like thinking of this tiny thing, and it has blown up into something so big, so much bigger than me, and so much bigger than my intention, and so much more important. It's an album of Joe Raposo and Jeff Moss music, and they were Jim Henson's original composers from Sesame Street. Two incredible songwriters who died way too young. And thankfully, they left us with music that instills in the listener simplicity and kindness and understanding and inclusion and silliness. And it's everything I want my daughter to learn. I watch the old Sesame Streets still every morning, the classic Sesame Streets, because they're just like, hey, this is it. Be kind. Don't be a dick, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not complicated. And so I knew I wanted that music. And when I first had the idea, I was like, let me see if I could get a friend to sing on it. And I emailed Jason Alexander because I love his voice.
Oh, yeah.
And he immediately was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I was like, oh, okay, now I've got to do it. And I talked to Fred Mullen, the producer, and he's like, you've got to do that. Everyone was like, you have to do that. So I was like, oh, I have to do this. And then I thought about the kids, and I was like, let's put the kids on it. And all the parents were like, you have to do this. And then the tracks were made, and we went to Nashville and recorded these fucking amazing tracks.
Wow. So on the video I watched, you guys are like in a big soundstage.
So
was that Nashville?
No, there was no video. We went to Nashville to do all the tracking, all the music.
Oh, the music, okay.
Yeah. So then we came back to LA because I didn't have any money to bring everybody to Nashville. But Sony Interactive, who is the gaming industry, I know, and they found out what I was doing, and they're like, would you like a free studio and an entire team of people? Again, this was like how this project, just people wanted to be a part of it. And so they gave us an entire, what that is a motion capture stage. It's
Were you the one here in San Diego? Or were you in
No,
LA?
but my friend Michael Mumbauer, who runs the San Diego stage, is the one who connected me to LA.
Oh, wow, cool. Because my friend works at the one here in San Diego. He works on the video game. He works for the MLB, the show game.
Yeah. So he knows my friend Michael Mumbauer.
Yeah, he showed me that big cool stage because that's where they shoot like the intro. Like whoever's on the cover, they have them come in and like do swings so they can get the actual stance of certain people, and he showed me where they filmed that.
Green dots. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
Mocap stages are huge because there's like 3,000 cameras capturing every movement.
Yeah.
So Sony gave us that. They gave us that stage.
Wow.
They gave me an engineer, which usually costs a fortune. I had an assistant there. I had a producer. I mean, I had everything.
That's cool.
And Jason was there, and all my blind students were there, and their families could be there, and it was.
The families are probably stoked too. They're probably Seinfeld fans.
Oh my God. It was just, and Jason was like, I thought the kids would be all about Jason, but they don't know, they're young. And Jason just sat there and asked them question after question about their musical ability and their life. And it was just gorgeous.
So cool.
And we did 2 days at Sony. And then I recorded my vocals by myself at a friend's studio because I sort of did all my stuff at the end. I wanted to make sure everybody else, was able to get in there. And then it got mixed and mastered, and it just sounded great. And then I thought, this album needs to do something for the world. And I decided there's many organizations I love, but Guide Dogs of America, because there's 2 guide dogs on the album.
Are there? That's cool.
They were at Sony. One snored in one of the takes, and we had to wake them up. And Gavin's Groupies. One of the youngest singers on the album is Gavin Stevens, and his family started the Gavin R. Stevens Foundation, and raising money for research for the disease he was born with that caused blindness from birth.
That's amazing. It's
called LCA. Yeah, I have two little kids with LCA on the album. They're unbelievable. They'll sing anyone under the table.
Yeah, I've watched the little trailer that you guys made, and it's incredible. What cool. Yeah, what a cool.
We didn't have any rehearsal. I didn't rehearse those kids at all. I sent them the music. I sent them the originals. I sent them my tracks with a guide vocal, and I said, hey guys, we're going to go to the studio and we're just going to sing. Because that's what Sesame Street did,
Yeah.
I didn't want it to sound shiny and polished. I wanted to sound live and with mistakes and imperfection. So it's so exciting.
Are you like the lead vocal on it, or is it kind of like a mix of?
It depends. For the solos, I am. And then for some of them, like One Small Voice, I don't sing a solo. I have other people. I have my friend Deb Grousman, who's on Sesame Street.
Wow.
And then Marlena Barber, she has albinism, but she does a lot of work with the blind. So I gave those solos to them. And the other songs, there's a lot of solos of the guest singers.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, you have quite a cast of people on this. It's so awesome. What are you guys going to do with it now that it's you have it coming out? Are you going to do like a tour of Sesame Street characters? Like
I don't know if we can. We were going to have a party. We can't even have a party.
Oh yeah, I know, totally.
So
you're going to do like a big party where you're going to have like the characters and everything kind of there?
No, because it's not Sesame Street knows about it and they love it, but it's not through Sesame Workshop. So
got it.
So it's not about Oscar and Ernie. It's about Joe Raposo and Jeff Moss. It's about their music, celebrating the people who brought us that music.
Got it. Okay.
So eventually I'd love to do live concerts with the singers and when we're allowed to. But right now it's just about getting people to, even if you're stuck at home, just to listen. It's 39 minutes from start to finish. And it's like, I just put it together in a way where it lets you forget about the news for a little bit.
Yeah, I think we all need that, especially right now.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, I'm getting reviews from like adult magazines, not adult magazines, but like grown-up magazines. Like the front man from Eagles of Death Metal did an interview with me the other day. He's obsessed with the album. And he's like, this isn't a kid's album. This is for everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what started as a kid's album is now just like a healing album for everybody, I hope.
Yeah. Wow. And then how did you decide on the songs that went on the record?
Fred Mullen, who's the producer out of Nashville, he has this way of working where I took every song Joe Raposo and Jeff Moss wrote, like ones that had never even been recorded before that I sort of found in episodes of Sesame Street. Mm-hmm. And I put them on CDs, and both Fred and I listened to them nonstop over and over and over and over again for about 4 or 5 days. And then we would talk and we'd say which ones really stuck out and which ones, just worked. And then there was a lot to choose from. There's some that I wanted that didn't have. There's some that we didn't have that I added at the last minute. So it's just about immersing ourselves in the music and seeing what's stuck, basically.
And so you had your idea of songs, he did, and you kind of came together and decided
what do you have? What part do you want? I'm like, well, I'll take that. We'll put being green, but I don't want that. And then some songs, like I knew Jason Alexander was going to be on the album, and once I heard I'm an Aardvark, I was like, oh, that's Jason's song. Like, there's no one else who can sing that song. And then when we picked I'm Pretty, I was like, oh, that's French Stewart's voice. Like, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, he's funny. I love him on that show, Mom. He's like the chef. Oh my God, he's so good.
And he's a dad, and he's fantastic singer. He's a fantastic human being. I wanted parents as my guests, you know, and Jason has 2 wonderful boys and a wonderful family, and same with French. French has a daughter, and his wife and I are very good friends, and I wanted the people on the album to exude the kindness in their lives that I want people to get from the album. That was really important to me. Not have no divas, you know. ML Woolley, who's like a big celebrity too. He's the voice of Louis in Princess and the Frog, and and he's just the greatest. And I just you hear that. I feel like that's why this album is so great. Is because of the people on it.
Mm-hmm. And when you guys put the arrangements together, the song arrangements, was that difficult to figure out, like, how you wanted to do it? Or did you kind of mimic the record, the original
recording? Is nuts. So I was nervous because I was like, Fred, do you have charts? Do we have charts? He's like, you don't need charts. He got the top Nashville studio guys. I mean, like Reba McEntire's band. Like,
oh, geez.
The top. They all knew the music, so they're like, we want to be part of it. They all worked for like $200 a session. It was crazy. What we would do is we would go into the booth, like the where the console is. Fred would play the original, and we would listen to the original, and then we would talk about it. And Fred's like, you know, I want more of a 2, 3, 4 there, or I want it to be more piano heavy, and then the chords were written out. So, and they do a number system there. It's crazy. And then everyone would go into the big gorgeous studio at Sound Emporium, pick up their instruments, and I would be on cans in an isolation vocal booth, and I would sort of sing in their ears, and we would do it like 3 or 4 times, and that was it.
Oh my gosh.
These guys were brilliant. I mean, it was incredible, and you got their instincts, you know, what they felt. Pat Coyle, who's on keys, like blew me away. When you hear dun da 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 da, like, it's the song you know, but it's a new person behind it.
Sure. Wow, that's exciting. And the record comes out in September?
August 28th.
Oh, August 28th. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Coming up.
You can pre-order
it. And for the record, are you guys gonna, I mean, obviously you can't play a show, you can't throw the party you wanted to. Are you gonna do a virtual celebration of sorts?
Hope so. I have so much to do with a child in the house, but yeah, I'd like to. And then I know that there's a great platform that allows you to do a concert, because Zoom singing is not fun.
Yeah, and I heard, and there's like issues if you wanted to play together.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to figure that out and make that happen. I just want to get it out there. I want people to hear it. I want to know what people think.
Yeah. That's exciting. It's really exciting. It's a great concept. And like I said, I love the little trailer you guys made. It's just, it looks like it's going to be such a great album. I'm really excited to check it out.
Thanks. I hope it gives you as much joy, and I hope Sebastian dances to it.
Oh, he will love it, I'm sure. He's a big music fan. He's actually been doing this new thing now. We have a record player right here.
I love that record player. I have one behind me there. It's a vertical record player. Do you see it?
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this one's just like
it's cool. It's a nice
one. It's clean because it's white, but we do this. He wants to do this game now. It's called Radio, where he goes and digs a record out, and then we put a song on, and then he dances in the hallway.
I love that.
I want to start filming it and doing it as like a segment or like
That's
a bit.
Awesome. You should.
Like Instagram or something, because he'll pull out some funny stuff. Like,
Like, what do you got in there?
He just pulled out like Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. Like, it's just like funny stuff.
Well, my 3-year-old loves the Beastie Boys. So she's always like, oh, the Beastie Boys. And Jeremy Enoch. I don't know if you know Jeremy Enoch, but my partner loves him.
The name sounds familiar.
He's a singer-songwriter, but he's not something that most 3-year-olds are like, can I have Jeremy Enoch and the Beastie Boys?
Right.
Can you rap me?
Yeah, that's why it's funny. He'll pull something out. I'm like, oh, okay, we'll put this on then. And it's just random.
And that's the thing is like, I set out not to make a children's album that was like Wheels on the Bus. Like I don't want to talk down to anybody. Like this music is not, it's for everybody, you know? I didn't want it to be like, sing a song, right? You know, I wanted it to be universal and for everybody.
Yes, that's exciting. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you did that too. You catered it to everyone because everyone knows Sesame Street. We all grew up with Sesame Street for the most part.
Yeah, and we're all in our 40s now. So we don't need to hear the condescension that you find in a lot of kids' music, you know? Kids are smarter than that. Izzy, my daughter Izzy would prefer like the Beatles, Queen, you know, music that's not catering to her. I mean, she likes a good Wheels on the Bus, but when Mama is done with Wheels on the Bus, you know, we have to give her more credit.
Mm-hmm. Totally. They don't, because my son doesn't even really, he enjoys more of the top 40 stuff, to be honest. Like if he hears Lizzo come on, he's all like excited, but awesome. It could be something else and he just doesn't really get it. But it's just
I tried to play her Little Mermaid so many times and she's like, this is boring.
Totally.
All right, we watch the Muppet movie.
Oh, that's like my wife's favorite movie, the Muppet movie. Oh man, she's obsessed.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been so great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Aspiring artists, have a backup
musicians.
Plan. Or musicians.
Or artists.
I mean, singers in general, I think, well, singers specifically, keep singing. It's hard to stay motivated when you're not working. All my friends on Broadway aren't working right now, but you have to stay motivated. Whether it's just warming up every day, you know, our voice is like a muscle. You can't stop working out. And I'm sure the same goes for a guitar player or a drummer. Stay inspired. You know, I just did a music video in quarantine for my album because I just needed to do something. And as far as working in this industry, say yes to everything. I mean, that's why I took the job at the blind school. It's why I did this album. When someone says, hey, will you play at my, and I do this all the time, will you play at my mother's 90th birthday? Will you come sing in her kitchen? I've done many of those and I say yes. It has led to paying jobs.
You never know who's in the kitchen.
Never do. And my other advice is always charge something. Don't give yourself away for free. Even if it's $50 or even, hey, can you cover my gas? You have to let people know you're worth something. And it's a mistake I made for so long. And I was like, sure, I'll do it for free. If you do it for free, you're valued very differently. So now is the time to go, yeah, I will, but you know, I do have a fee. So it's important to value yourself, or else no one else is going to value you. And again, even if it's just a small fee, I think that's important.
I love that. I've never heard anybody say that as advice. I think that's great advice, to know your worth and get some money for it.
Musicians, we're taken advantage of all the time, but if you're good at what you do, you should be paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. And again, it means you have to work hard and you have to be good at what you do. But once you know that, then people should pay you for it. I'm asked to sing at tons of stuff and I'm like, absolutely, but it's not for free. And as soon as you say that, if they're turned off, that's fine. But for the most part, they're like, oh, okay. You know, or I say, do you have a budget? You know, can there be something? Literally, I will take something so small, but it needs to be show that I need to be paid something.
Bringing it backwards.